Then when we got into Germany, we started to hit these concentration camps. Now, I understand that you guys have been studying about the Holocaust. Well, it's just as real as it can be. That the head of Iran that said it never happened is a liar. It happened. The first one I saw is indelible in my mind. They had electric fences around all these places so people couldn't get out. They took the tanks and they just smashed through there so that we could get in there. And in the distance we could see these sticks sticking up in the air with a head on them. And my God, that's horrible. And as we got closer, we could see those sticks were human beings that were still alive. And they were as big around as this thing with a head on them. And President Eisenhower, at that time general, came in. He ordered every kitchen in the area to fix food, especially soups. And we tried to feed soups to these people. It was just impossible. They were too far gone. And then we got a chance to see what that camp was really like. Those inhuman dogs had taken these poor people, in this one camp especially. They were all stripped naked. Every one of them that had any gold or anything in their teeth, they had it knocked out while they were still alive. They were gassed. They took them in to give them a shower, and instead of water, gas came out. And then they took a bulldozer and they just piled them up out in the field. Now take an area the size of a football field and then go up in the air 50 feet with it, and imagine that full of naked bodies all intertwined like this. That's what we saw that first day. And it made us so mad that, I tell you, we'd have butchered any Germans that were in that camp. But they all ran out the back door, every one of them that worked there, and it still left a really bad taste in our mouths, I'll tell you. It justified what we had to go through just to get a crack back at them. Can you imagine, guys, how horrible that is? Think of it. Just think of it. Just imagine. So then they brought out the women of the town. And some of them came out very howdy. They had on their high heels and their hairdos were all done. And they made them come out and they were standing, and the high officers like Eisenhower and them made them pull these dead bodies, tow them over to a ditch that had been dug and put them in that ditch. And they were walking like this, because you can imagine how those bodies stunk. You could smell them 50 miles away. The places where they slept was just a rat nest. A lucky one had a handful of straw to lay on. They had no clothing that fit them. They just didn't feed them. Anything you read about the Holocaust, just multiply it times 100, because that's how bad it was. This is why General Eisenhower, in his wisdom, made sure that photographers came in and photographed these scenes so that we have them on record, so that people can't say it never happened. It made the war, in a way, worthwhile for us. We were young kids, 18 years old. You're young, yeah? You guys got a ways to go to get there, but you will. And you'll find out that, that's your youth years. And to have to grow up that fast is something. But it's a wonderful thing when you can advise somebody about it. You guys are just, what a wonderful group of kids you are. I call you kids. You're not kids. You're young adults. I got grandkids older than you, and great-grandkids. And it's wonderful. I'll be 90 years old on my next birthday, and I'm going to be the oldest living veteran of World War II. Mark it down. I've already decided that. Good Lord willing. When the war started to buckle down a little more, we met the Russians in Austria, and we had to laugh because they were actually like comedians. They were funny. And if you were to take a an IQ test, I'll bet you there's none of them went over 100. And I'm serious about it. Nice guys, but they had no. I'll give you an example. I had a Jeep, and two Russian soldiers came up to me and said, and they spoke English, and they said, "We want to buy your Jeep." And I said, "Well," I don't want any Russian money. They said, "We've got American dollars." They gave me 500 American bucks for that Jeep. Well, 500 to me back then, when I was getting $19 a month, you can imagine it was like 10,000 bucks today. So I took it, and these two guys took the Jeep up on a hill above the river. They taped the horn down on it so that it would blow, and it blew till the battery was dead. Then they pushed it into the river. That's their mentality. Think of it. And those are back in the days when the Cold War was going on here, and everybody was so scared of the Russians. I wasn't, never was, because I knew that they were just a facade down there. They had nothing. They showed all this might and everything. They didn't even have a flush toilet beyond the camera range. That's the way they were. Well, anyhow, the things that we had to do down there were something I hope none of you ever have to do or go through. And let's hope that somehow, some way, politicians can find a way to settle these things. Because as we know, politicians make wars, they don't fight them. And that's the tough part of it. If they had to fight them, they'd stop right away. So, I've got a lot of things more I could tell you, but what I'm going to do is, if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them. And maybe we can hit on another subject yet, because there's a lot of things here yet. There's a lady over there, there's a question.
Where did that mic go?
Who took it?
Is that other mic?
Same. Tell me if you...
What kind of concentration camp did you go to? What kind of concentration camp? 2?
There was only one kind of concentration camp. They were all the same. Funny, something, and you know, a lot of them had funny names. I would recognize the names if I saw them, though. We were at one that I remember was in Austria, and it was the main one for taking the high class of the Jewish people, the richest Jewish people were put over there. And for some reason, I don't know why, but that's, and I forget the name of it. I knew what it was, but I don't remember. They all had a funny name anyhow. And you know, there wasn't 1 or 5 or 10 of them. There was hundreds of them. They were spread out all over Germany, and if you see a map of it, there's dots just like this where they were. They had to have them everywhere. And then the people that were there claimed they didn't know anything about it. You know. But combat is no fun. I had to shoot 12 boys, my age probably, that I had nothing against, or be shot myself. And you know that? It sounds cold, and yet it had to be done. I shot a bazooka one time into a building where I saw 6 of them run. The building blew up and it killed all 6 of them because they came in an ambulance and got them later. That's horrible. And yet they were there to kill me. They would have done the same thing to me. I can tell you a couple funny things that happened. One of them, when we were in, I didn't tell you this, did I, about the training camp when we had the boxing ring set up? Did I tell you that? Oh, you'd enjoy this. I told you about this division we were in. It was drunks. It was a bunch of drunks. These guys were all in their 20s or older, and with us young kids, they treated us like trash. And so one day, they decided they were going to show us kids a lesson. So they set up a boxing ring out in the middle of the field out there where we trained. And they had a guy by the name of Benny Violet. And Benny was a semi-pro fighter from Brooklyn. And he's one of these guys, he's dancing around the ring, you know, you've seen him, you know. Oh. And they, one at a time, they took us new kids, there was about 15 of us, and to spend 1 minute in the ring with Benny Violet. Well, they finally got to me. And they pushed me into the ring, and I said, I don't want to fight him. And of course, Benny's over there going through his act, you know, getting ready to kill me. And I just told him, I'm not going to fight the guy. Well, then, of course, the accolades start. You're yellow, you know, and this whole thing starts. So finally I said, all right, I'll fight the guy. So they put the gloves on me, and Benny came running across the ring, and he threw a roundhouse punch at me. And I ducked, and I put one into his belly right up to here. And I hit him about 6 or 8 more times before he went through the ropes. And they caught him, and the fight was over. I forgot to tell them, back in 39 and 40, we used to have Golden Glove boxing championships in Minnesota. I won 2 years in a row. To get more serious, I'm going to tell you a story, another true story. On Christmas Eve of 1944, McGee and I, my foxhole buddy, were in our hole as usual. It was a holding action, which means that the Germans didn't try to attack, and we didn't either. And we were maybe 200 yards away from the Germans. They were kind of downhill and in the woods. We were up above here, and we were in our holes, and they were shooting everywhere. You could hear it 10 miles away. All of a sudden, it must have been close to midnight, all of a sudden, the shooting all stopped. It just got so quiet, it got ghostly quiet, just eerie. And McGee and I looked at one another, and all of a sudden, we heard the German soldiers singing. They were singing this Tannenbaum, which means Christmas tree, as I take it. And they sang that song. And then when they got done, they went into Silent Night, Holy Night. I cried like a baby. I still do every time I hear the song. And the war stopped. It actually stopped right there for a few minutes. And it's almost like the Lord himself came down and talked to us. And we were so impressed. But that's one of the good times. You know, you have times like that that you remember. And one more funny one. One time when we were, well, the same building where this guy got killed with that bomb, had a little basement on it. And that night, we snuck down there for just a minute. 3 of the guys wanted to have a cigarette. I didn't smoke, but I went down with them. They were smoking their cigarettes, and does that help? He says, yeah. I says, well, then give me one. I never even had one in my mouth. I thought, I'll try one. So I lit this cigarette and started to cough. It was the worst thing I ever smoked in my life. And then I found out later, we were smoking a thing called Raleigh cigarettes. They have a cork end. I lit the wrong end. I was smoking rubber. Oh, it was terrible.
You've got 5 minutes.
I've got 5 minutes? I'll tell you that one time we had a holding action in a town. And I got up in the second story of this bombed out building, and I'm sitting there, there's Germans across the street. All of a sudden, a bomb or something hit the building I'm in, and the building collapses. And it was just like a cartoon. It went real slow, and I could feel myself sliding, and I slid right down the stairs, real slow. And it was just like a cartoon. And when I got down to the street level, I looked, and there next to me were 2 coins. They were coins that had, what's his name on, the Emperor of France and Josephine. Napoleon. Yeah, they were dated 1813. I've still got those at home. Isn't that something? There they were, sitting right there, and I just picked them up, put them in my pocket. I had a lot of trophies that I picked up from there. I lost a lot of them in a fire. I had a great big flag, and I had banners off cars. I had ceremonial swords. I had an iron cross. I had a 2-carat diamond that I found in one of those homes like that, where it was bombed out. It was laying right out in the open. A lot of things like that. I've got a German army rifle. I followed a colonel down a basement one day. I followed him right down and went down to get him, and I hear the bang. I got down there. He committed suicide, and he had a 9mm Luger. I took that Luger, and I've still got it. I got another pistol that I bought. And what we used to do is get extra guns and sell them to the Air Force guys. That's the only way they could get them, and we made a few bucks that way, because there was a lot of guns available down there. Then finally, when the war ended, we got into a little town in Austria, and they assigned each one of us a German prisoner of war to be a servant, or whatever you want to call it. And we moved into the barracks of what was the same as our West Point. And we had beds then. And you should have seen us. Dirty, disarrayed. And we got right into bed with our boots and everything on. It was so wonderful. Oh, it's unbelievable. But anyway, just about everybody that was there and is still alive as a patient over at the hospital, the vet's hospital. If you ever get a chance, stop in at the vet's home or somewhere and just say hi to some of those people. They'd love to see young people especially. It cheers them up. There's something about being with you young guys that invigorates the rest of us. It's hard to explain, but it's there. Someday you'll know. It's like my daddy always said when we were up deer hunting. One more story. My daddy's having trouble putting on his socks up deer hunting. He was 80-some years old, and I guess I was 50 or something. And I said, "What's the matter, old boy? Having trouble there?" He looked up and he smiled and he said 5 words of wisdom that I've never forgot. He said, "Just wait, boy. Just wait." Think about it. I know now what he meant.
Joe, we just wanted to say thank you. Sister wanted to say thank you.